Hello again. I'm here with another episode of APIM. In previous sessions, we talked about creating a new APIM, and also we went through three different components of APIM. I've created another instance of APIM because I use it for other purposes. So it has network connectivity. The other previous version has network connectivity and everything is set, but I've created another one, demo 2, to show you how we can do the network configuration, because sometimes it may take up to 45 minutes for a network change. We can switch back to the previous version, demo 1, and see the configuration and how it works. So I am in my resource group test 2. I'm clicking on this one. When I go to security, not security, deployment and infrastructure, networks here. I was looking for this one. We can see here there is non-external and internal mode for virtual network. What are these? So let's look at the documentation, Microsoft documentation, and see what it says. So just search APIM external mode. The first link is usually the correct one. So when we are talking about the external mode, there is a good diagram here that shows how it works. So if we start at top, start by looking at top. It says we need these DNSs, or these needs to be hosted in the DNS. Azure API.NET, portal Azure API.NET, management, and SCM. So as we have seen, Azure API.NET is the gateway URL. Portal is for developer portal. Management is for managing that API. So you have access to some REST APIs which you can use to manage your APIs. So this is about this one. And the last one is SCM Azure-API.NET. What is this one? This is about source control management. But what is source control management? Well, if we go back to the portal, at the bottom of the deployment and infrastructure, we see repositories. So it means you can connect it to a repository and your configuration gonna be saved to a repository and you can deploy to the API management. It's similar to the concept of infrastructure as code. So you need these services, these addresses to be resolvable by your DNS. So speaking of these ones, DNS and networking was the next step, or how the external mode gonna work. So as we can see here, this is APIM, right? And it is within a subnet, and we have some back-end resources or computing services like Azure Function Apps or something like that. So your APIM can securely connect to the back-end services which are also in Azure, and they communicate securely with those resources. But also by having a gateway, we can communicate to the back end with the rest of the back end or other back end which are hosted on premise. We can use site-to-site or express route here, and we can connect it. We can do Azure peering with other resources as well. Those API that we develop and host into API management gonna be accessible through the internet by outside. So that is possibly the most sophisticated. Well, most sophisticated is not the correct term. It depends on your requirements. So if you want your APIs to be accessible by internet, then external mode is the way. So let's look at the internal mode. So in internal mode, as you can see here, the administrator is allowed to connect to the API management through PowerShell or Azure portal. User cannot use those APIs. So it's only accessible within the network, within your network that you have. So you can access those APIs that you deploy to APIM if you're in the same Vnet here, or you have a connectivity on premise with the site-to-site or express route through a gateway. So your user can be your department in your organization, connect to a VPN, site-to-site or express route to the APIM. But no one from the internet can connect and use the APIs, except they can't use it, but the administrator can use the PowerShell or Azure portal to manage the API. The same way that we are doing it here, going through this setting and do those configuration. These are the two main settings. If we select none, there was another option, none. It means it's gonna be sitting, your APIM is exposed sitting in the internet, and all the back end traffic to the back end go through internet. So it's not the most secure way, possibly it's the least secure. So if I look for Paint, so this is your APIM here, and the rest are internet here. So your resources, you want to connect from the internet, and the resources also in the internet. So nothing go through your, it is the masterpiece. So everything needs to go to internet. This is possibly helpful for scenarios when you have an APIM which needs to connect to some public APIs. Maybe you want to mask the public API, you want to rebrand them, or you have some kind of agreement with them. Again, if you have some kind of agreement, some kind of security needs to be in place. So possibly that's not the best model, virtual network to known, but yeah, this is the general case. When you want to access something publicly and the backends are publicly available, you just want to put something between the backend, which are publicly available, and your user, which are also in public or internet. So let's go with the external one. But before we go with that one, what do we need to create? So if I go to external one and I scroll down, it actually states the list of services or prerequisites that we need. So these are the three most important one, common one. We have this one, so there are two other things, a Vnet and a network security group. So let's create a Vnet. But if we scroll up, it says network resource requirement. So it specifically talks about this part, about the size of the subnet and what we need to put there. If we go here, which is actually the first link, we can see there are some description here that says Azure reserve 5 IP addresses within each subnet that can't be used, right? So there are 5 IP addresses that we can't use, and for each API instance we need 2 IPs per basic standard or premium SKUs, or 1 per developer. So speaking of, this is an example, speaking of subnet, so if we have a subnet like that, so what does /29 means? So let me delete my masterpiece. Each IPv4 is composed of 32 bits, and each 8 bits are 1 byte. So we have 1 byte here, second, third, and fourth. We have 8 bits here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So when we say 29, we are talking about the last 3 remaining bits, because every bit can be either 0 or 1. We can model 2 numbers, or we can form 2 numbers, 0 and 1. 2 number for this one and 2 number for this one. 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2 gives us 8. So getting back to this one, So we have 8 possible addresses with 29. 5 reserved IP addresses. 5 are reserved for Azure. 2 are used by the API management. Of course, depends on the tier. 1 IP address gonna be used for the load balancer if we use it in internal mode. So 5 plus 2 plus 1, 8. So we're gonna have 0 remaining IP addresses left. There are some other recommendation here which you can read. There is one more thing that I would like to show you. So when we are creating a Vnet, we need to delegate, we need to disable the delegate subnet to a service, and we're gonna create a network security group. So let's do that one. Let's create a network security group, or NSG. I'm gonna call it NSG2. Let's call it NSG APIM. NSG APIM. Here we create. What is NSG? NSG is a set of rules that we define to limit the connectivity to a network. We're gonna attach it to a subnet, but what kind of rules do we need? So these are the rules that we need. So inbound, so we are saying that, I'm gonna show you, give me a moment. So let me refresh this one, shouldn't. Yeah, in the network security group, so go to resource, network security group. These are the inbound rules, these are the outbound rules. So we are saying we only, usually, actually not usually, always 3 are filled. There are 3 existing rules added by Microsoft, but Azure automatically. So we have inbound security rules and outbound. In the inbound, on the inbound, we click add. We're gonna select service tag, internet, any destination, gonna be service tag, oh my bad. Service tag, we're gonna default, going to virtual network, and what protocol do we need to set? HTTP and HTTPS. So we are saying anything that comes from internet, from any port, we're gonna forward it to the virtual network and HTTP port 80. So we're gonna add it. Priority, a lower number means a higher priority. We're gonna add it. We can name them properly, but at the moment let's skip that. Service tag, internet, any destination, service tag, virtual network. Now we need to select HTTPS and allow. So we need to implement these rules. So API management any, again add service tag, API management, any port, destination service tag, it needs to go to Vnet. So if this NSG gonna be attached to a subnet, so we are saying when anything that needs to go to this network, we need to follow this principle that we are defining. So it should be virtual network, yeah, this port 3443. Protocol is TCP. Hello. Next one, again, what's that one? The load balancer, service tag, Azure load balancer gonna be deployed. It's gonna go to virtual network. Which port? This one. Here, right? Okay. TCP, hello. Okay, good. The party internet match and others. Okay, we're gonna put it 130. No issue. So we have this one, the traffic manager as well, 443 HTTPS. service tag. It was traffic manager or Azure traffic manager. Azure traffic manager. Any destination service tag. Vnet. Custom and export protocol TCP. Hello. So in terms of outbound, we don't have any storage. We need to connect NoSQL, but we possibly gonna use Key Vault. And the reason for that one, APIM needs to connect a Key Vault and get a secret from it, and as a name value, and it can be used in the policy that we're gonna define in the APIM. So we're gonna do that quickly. Outbound, right? It was outbound. Okay, outbound. Service tag, it should be Key Vault, right? Sorry, virtual network, port any destination service tag, Azure, it's Key Vault or Azure Key Vault? Azure Key Vault. It should be 443, right? Yeah, 443 because it's HTTPS, TCP, HTTPS. We're gonna, because, yeah, that's good. We can put AKS here, Azure Key Vault AQV. Service tag, just the pass. Hopefully I haven't made a mistake here, but let's go ahead and add it. Good. We have 2 here, 3, 4, 5. Let's see, we have 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good, we have done that one. Now we need to create a Vnet. We can do that. Yeah, virtual network. I'm gonna call it Vnet APIM. Vnet APIM. Which resource group? Test 2, region Australia East. It should be in the same. The most important thing is that the Vnet should be in the same region that we are deploying the APIM. Next, security, we don't want anything. IP addresses, we're gonna go with the default one. It's covered this many IP addresses, possibly -5. Those one that we saw that are reserved by Microsoft. First one is the identifier, and the last IP is the broadcast IP. So we have done these 2. Good, it was quick. So we have, we need another more, is public IP, like public IP addresses. So it is not essential, but I would prefer to have it. Yes, there is another thing is that we need to best performance. There are some recommendations here, we can apply those ones. But for the DNS name label, in general, you should use the same DNS name as your API management instance. So we need to go to our APIM, copy the name, public IP, create one, test 2, Australia is public IP APIM test 2, IPv4, no redundancy, no availability zone, regional, static, timeout file, and this one. Change this one to lowercase, otherwise we're gonna get an error. I think the rest should be okay. Next, we just gonna enable that one. Denial of service gives us some level of protection. Seems no error. Validation pass, and now create. So what we have done so far, we created Vnet, we created a public IP, we created an NSG, and now we need to assign that NSG to the subnet. So we are in the virtual network that we created. We are going to the subnet. We only have one subnet, default one. And if scroll down in the security section, we're gonna put that NSG here. So it always gonna use that security group. Save. Okay, no error. There is no device here. Good. Go to the home. And for the DNS server, we are using the default one, Azure provided at this stage. So if we go to test 2, we have everything that we need. Okay, this is being activated. Give it a few minutes, and we're gonna get back to here and set the networking configuration for that. Okay, now it's activated. So in the virtual network, we need to select external, select a Vnet, Vnet APIM, select a subnet and a public IP address, which is good. Apply, and then click on save. That's it. It takes about 15 to 45 minutes to apply, and hopefully it's gonna be applied without any issue. Thanks for watching. Any question, let me know.